I see what you're doing.
Right out of the gate.
Sail on, sailor.
Sail on, sailor. Sail on, pirate. We're back, people. And yes, this is Bob Seger.
I thought it was Queen.
I'll take that back. It's the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jimmy Buffett. What do you think? Here you go, Jared.
Cheeseburger in paradise.
Well,
that was,
well
hey.
done. It's good.
You like
Did
that?
you think it was good?
Yeah, it's good.
It's not bad. We'll just add a little bit of auto-tune and reverb on that vocal.
Both Malone's going to do some post-production.
You know what? Actually, though, what he just did is exactly what it sounds like when you go to a rap concert and they try to rap. It sounds like that. A little bit off.
I've never been to a rap concert.
Yes, you have.
I know.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett. Did you guys, anybody have a respectful cheeseburger in honor of Jimmy?
I did not. Had respectful pizza.
You had pizza for Jimmy? Really?
I've had multiple cheeseburgers since he's died.
I love them. I just don't eat a lot of them anymore, but I did yesterday for, I'm a little late, but, and I had mixed feelings about it because I ordered a double cheeseburger and a small fry, which happened to be crinkle cut fries, which are my favorite. And it was like, without drink, $15.34.
Where were you at?
Take a guess.
High Point?
No.
No.
I was in the valley, coming back.
Oh, you were at Shake Shack.
Bingo. How did you know?
Because it's a $15 cheeseburger with fries.
And here's the deal. I picked it up, and of course, I was driving to soccer practice out to Creve Coeur.
Yep.
And as that bag sat in the car, because I didn't eat it until I got out there, I just stared at it and was pissed off. Literally pissed off the whole time, like, fucking $15 for a double cheeseburger fry, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I get there, and the fries were good, and the burger was great. And I'm like, damn, I'm the asshole.
It's good. It's good. I just think we drove by one. Or actually, no, Jared, you and I walked by one when we were in Detroit, and I had made the comment, it's the most overrated and overpriced cheeseburger in the area.
You're too hard on things. I mean, I think it's good. I think it's edible. I mean, I'll eat a Shake Shack, but it is expensive.
Yeah,
It is. But, I mean, the burger's right, but it's not
I like the sauce.
$10.
I mean, it's nothing special. It's just a couple condiments mixed, probably.
No.
But I do like the
You
Shake
like the
Shack
sauce, really? It's called mayo and ketchup.
Yeah, I know.
Stirred.
But it's good.
with a little pepper in it, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Paprika. Not red pepper, right? We're back for another episode now that we've wasted the first 3 minutes of your listening pleasure here. It's been a great run. A lot of different kind of episodes lately. Been working with Jen also on Soccer Mom Sunday.
Yep.
Those have been fun. The last show was me solo with some of my 62040 brethren in honor of Coach Baker. Excuse me. So we've kind of been all over the board. And coming up here the next few weeks, we've got a real run of just some fun, great names. Really looking forward to it. The support has been kind of exceeding expectations as well. So for that, thank you. Just a lot of different things going on. School's back in session. Kids are playing now basically 7 days a week, right? What else you guys got going on? For you, pool boy, when you closing that thing up?
I don't close it till like October. It's heated. It's a hot tub right now.
It's heated.
Yep. I got it at like 94 right now. It's nice.
That's disgusting.
No,
You don't
it's
have it
beautiful.
heated to 94. It's just 94.
No, it's no.
You got the heaters on right now?
Yeah, I have it heated. Yeah, I want to be able to use it. I can't. I don't.
Well,
I
but
don't
it's still
swim in
hitting
anything
like
less than
94
90.
Huh?
I don't really swim in anything less than 90. I like 90.
Okay, princess. Jesus.
Do you
Well, just move
take
to Florida.
showers or do you just jump in the pool?
No, sometimes I look at
chlorine?
it, but no, I take showers.
Okay.
Have you ever taken soap
Ask
in
Mandy.
with you? Have you ever? Got to throw out a couple things real quick. To our friends over at Crescent Plumbing, they continue to support the show. And again, you need anything plumbing wise, hit them up. Renovation, hit them up. They're going to keep you on budget. That will keep your marriage, your relationship in good standing. So give them a call. Our boys, Chris and Billy over at Pinnacle. You guys, thank you for the support. Looking forward to having you on. You know what? Hey, if we are going to be doing that outdoor on-site show, I think that'd be a great one to bring them on.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, and do we just tease it, or do we just spill the beans?
I think we tease it a little bit.
Let's put it this way. It's 2 NCAA Division I programs
In the state of Missouri,
playing
in St. Louis.
high profiles. Playing
Top
in St.
amateur soccer that our state has to offer, I would say.
Yep. One team is it's got St. Louis blood through it, and the other team is United Nations.
Yes. Via the Ozarks.
Via the Ozarks. It's the Ozark Tribunal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we should bring them on there. We'll hit them up. And then our newest supporter, Axis Physical Therapy. I pronounced that right, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
You did. That's your commercial.
Yeah.
And whenever Kim heard that story and heard you say on air that you were jealous, she felt sorry for her. She's like, oh, my God, I want to call him.
I do like to pull the pity card.
I want to give him a hug. Because even Max had a commercial. I went on a commercial.
Well.
You did well. You did good, though. We'll play that here in a little bit for our listeners. Let's get right to it, because we've got our guest sitting here drinking some Wally's Light Lagers with us at
Amsterdam.
the Amsterdam Tavern.
Can you tell his demeanor and his mood? It's like, this dude has gotten moodier in his old age. And some
I'm a
days you
bitch.
just don't really know how to take him. But whenever he's here, he's like the dude
It's my
that
happy
wears,
place, man.
Who's the workout guy that was a little overweight with the short shorts?
Richard Simmons.
Yeah, he acts like him when he's in Amsterdam.
No, when Richard Simmons would put on the spandex and stand around a bunch of people that don't look like him, and he was happy. And when I'm here, I just look at the scarves and I look at everything. It's at my happy place.
Well, and you've got your Carl Rose pennant right there with the quarter still taped to it.
Yeah.
And the blue wall, and Chelsea's crushing it this year. So I mean, you got that to be happy about.
This is Busch
Hey,
Soccer
Zach,
Club Blue.
I hope you enjoyed your time on the show.
And that is for our guest today, because he will also agree that this is Busch Soccer Club Blue this wall.
Okay. All right. And now to our commercial break.
We got Pinnacle Points.
Pinnacle Points. We do have Pinnacle Points. Zach.
Sure.
You look ready, man. Hit it.
So I recently watched this video of 18-year-old Noel Buck. Have you guys heard of Noel?
Is he the guy that just kind of switched flags to England?
Yeah, he just got signed over in England. He was with the New England Revolution, and he did a presser, and he basically said, yeah, about the U.S. men's national team, I talked to Greg a little while ago. We'll see how it goes. And it was the most flippant response to, are you going to be on the U.S. men's national team or the England national team? And it goes back to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about international players kind of choosing which squad they want to join up with, and how that is affecting the international game and all that kind of fun stuff. And it really bothered me. I did
Just say
not,
it's wrong. I mean,
I did not like it, but I don't know the context, and I don't know if I was over exaggerating, but I wanted to kind of get your takes on that at some point. Just that.
I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I saw one video of it and just kind of read a little bit of the context, because I wasn't really connecting the dots. And it's just like, if he's that ambivalent and arrogant, I'm going to be even more ambivalent. I don't care about you.
Then don't just go to England.
Go away.
I don't know. That's kind of how I felt. Like,
go to Qatar.
Right. Fine.
They'll sign you up. Jared, what you got? You got Pinnacle Point for me?
Yeah, my Pinnacle Point is the just absolutely wonderful photo taken out at City Park yesterday with Greg Berhalter, and it was 76 players from the St. Louis area.
Well,
it was a few of the 76 players from St. Louis that have represented the U.S. national team from our backyard. And, liking it, commenting on things. Greg Berhalter speaks, through the newscast that, we're in the St. Louis, we're in the soccer capital of the country, from our national team coach. and I have proceeded to argue with every fucking asshole on social media about why we are or are
the
not.
same ones I am?
Maybe.
Okay.
And, there's a lot of valid points about how many members have, came from here or there or whatnot. But, I mean, the U.S. national team coach on live spoke out and said,
unprovoked,
we call this the soccer capital of the country.
The number that strikes me, and I don't know who posted this, but 10%.
Historically,
10% of all players in the U.S. national team came from St. Louis.
Yeah. Of all players that have been capped, 10% of them are St. Louis players.
That's insane.
And there were different eras and years that probably there was more percentage from California. But, I mean, 1950, say something, California.
California is a pretty big state.
Yep.
We're talking about a 40-mile radius?
Well, let's put it in the context of where we really want to go with this, which is exactly where I want to go with this.
Ugh.
Following our weekend game, our stumble in league, City SC's loss to those guys.
We should have called George Gansner on this because there were a lot of interesting plays from a referee standpoint.
I'm with you.
I'm not going to blame the refs, but
I'm not blaming the refs. That's not the point. I'm just saying there were some questionable things that had massive impact.
Well, the fucking goal wasn't offsides.
Well,
clearly,
that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah,
that goal wasn't offsides, and one of their goals there was a clear handball before they scored.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of my point. We lost by 1, and you just referenced 2 goals.
So but there's a lot of like subtext too here. First registered regular season sellout.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And since
2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot to chew on there.
But what's funny to me is the response from the KC folks is like, "Well, you're new to the league. We'll see how you feel in 20 years."
Well, you've only been around.
We're not talking about 20 years from now. We're talking about now, Dick.
Yeah. You've only been around the game for like 4 months. Really?
Right.
4 months?
Really?
I had one guy that hit me up. He's like, "Well, I've been following this league in depth for 10 years." And I'm like, "I got copas that are 3 times that old. Go away."
Well, my favorite now is I've got friends from Miami, and they've been
Miami?
staunch MLS supporters for 11 games.
That, you know what? I respect that.
Yeah, and now they know everything about MLS.
So can anybody talk about the and I'm just not even going to say it, but I think Messi and Miami are in a little bit of trouble. Not necessarily the international break that he's going, or not the international games where he's going to miss MLS games to go play for Argentina, but there's some rumors of some rule breaking that may or may not be
news to me.
This is news.
Okay. Well,
breaking news here. On
breaking news on Soccer Dad Pod. Sounds like there's some rules broke that may affect his eligibility. I'll leave it at that.
In MLS?
Yes.
Really? Where'd you get that news?
Our guest told us.
Did he not sign the right cards for the club?
I don't know.
What's your pinnacle point there, JB?
So I have a really fun one. And this actually just came to me about an hour and a half ago whenever I was getting a haircut.
Looks nice, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It's a 1 down low 2 in the middle, and then I always tell them, like, I don't use product, I don't comb my hair, and she's like, really? Okay. Because she looks at me like, duh. But I'm sitting there and I don't talk.
My shocked faced.
Yeah, no, you know how that usually is like, so how's your day, blah blah. And I'm like, I purposely am like, hey, it's good, real short to the point, because I want to listen, and it's not because I don't want to talk. I have this weird like fetish of listening to all the other weird people.
I do the same thing. I did the exact same thing.
And I scored today.
Oh,
dude sitting next to me, who had the grossest toenails ever. Sitting there, and the girl's like, "So, how's it going? What are you doing? Have you, looks like you've lost some weight." He goes, "Yeah, I've been working out a lot. I'm trying to get back in my track shape. I was a track all-star in high school and this and that." And she's like, "Well, how old are you?" And he's like, "I'm 31." He goes, "I'm going to try and get back to a sub 60-second 400." And she's like, "Oh, wow." And she had no idea what he was talking about. And then he proceeded to say, it's a little known fact that at one point in 2012, I was the fastest 400 runner in the state of Missouri, and I was faster than every single woman in the world. And she looked at him, she's like, "How do you know that?" He goes, "Because I checked all the scores by 1/10 of 1 second.
Oh my God.
I beat, and I sat there and I start laughing out loud, and like I'm moving as I'm laughing, and I'm like, she's gonna cut my head. Because this dude is talking about his high school 400 lap time.
And the fact that he hates women.
And his stylist, she was picking up what he was laying down. She was not happy.
His haircut does not.
I'm like, dude, you are not coming back for a freebie after this one. So
his ears were literally lowered.
Yeah. So pinnacle point of the day is, do not talk to your stylist. Sit there, listen to everybody else, because it's cheap entertainment.
It is. I agree.
Jared,
a lot of mansplaining.
You do that too. Or you probably chatty.
No, I don't. I do.
You're
not
probably
chat
the
with my
person that
stylist.
everybody's listening to.
Well, let me be honest. If the stylist is gorgeous, then I'm extremely chatty. But if the stylist is not wonderful, then I'm like, cut my hair, honey.
Well, I want to learn more. Why?
I don't know. It's
I'm going to
just
lean into
human
this
nature.
for 1 second because we need another sponsor, I think. And I think I go to the hair salon. If any Twelman family members are out there listening. And it's a cool spot because you get a free beer when you walk in. And
Yeah, but if you walk into G&W Sausage, they'll give you a Busch too.
Well, they're not going to cut my hair, though.
I know.
All right.
I'm just totally digressing.
Yep.
I wanted to mention something real quick before we take a break. Got a text from a friend of ours, the Mr. Jason Glover. Mm-hmm. He wanted us to give us a quick shout out. Here, Jared, read it. Got a little something in my eye real quick here. You do that.
This guy's got the 2023-24 St. Louis Champions Futsal League for both boys and girls, starting in early December. This guy, it's a small cost per team, but their playing dates, league dates, are December 2nd, 3rd, 9th, 10th, 16th, 17th. Looks like they got 7 or 8 dates in January. They got 4 dates in February. Don't know, he'll come on probably and share more, but looks like it's played at SLU High School, and then also Christian Academy of Greater St. Louis. So perfect situation for anybody that's in a club that wants to keep winter touches going on. This is probably your stop. Again, it's called the St. Louis Champions Futsal League, put on by Jason Glover.
And Caden played as well, futsal for a long, long time.
Yep.
And several of the boys on our...
You swear by it.
I absolutely.
It works pretty well for those Brazilian kids, too.
I mean, they're doing all right.
Kind of a good segue because I think the gentleman today may or may not have been Caden's first St. Louis Scott Gallagher coach.
Well, he just pointed at you and nodded his head, so I'm assuming that's a yes.
Yeah. So how about that?
Well, here we go. We're going to roll out with a little bit of Jimmy Buffett before we bring the guest on. Cheeseburger in Paradise. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Pinnacle. ThePinnacleLoans.com. Check them out. Crescent and Axis Physical Therapy. Thank you as well. We'll be right back after these messages.
Zach here. I love my kids, really. And when my kids have a knock, a sprain, a tweak, I like to get them back to 100% as soon as possible. I also hate deductibles. I get it. But now, in Missouri, I don't have to waste any unnecessary copay after my child rolls their ankle because now I can go straight to a PT. No more pediatric visits in a germ-infested lobby waiting for permission to go to a physical therapist. Axis Physical Therapy has 19 locations from Glen Carbon to Winsville and specializes in rehab, especially soccer rehab. So instead of burning a couple of needless hours and cash going to get a referral, take that bump or bruise straight to Axis. Go to axispt.com for more info, and feel free to Venmo me your half the savings.
Yo, Jared here. Remember the pool pandemic of 2021? I was infected. I needed my own oversized oasis in Winsville. I needed a simple solution to pay for it. So I reached out to my favorite undefeated CBC freshman standouts, Bill and Chris at The Pinnacle Loans. Long story short, I have my pool. It's a flipping hammer. The loan process with those guys was so simple. Even I did it. Now, every time I get in my pool to drink ice cold beer, I can thank the team over at thepinnacleloans.com. That's thepinnacleloans.com. 20-0 as freshmen? Really?
And then talk to you after.
Yeah. Ooh, I like this song.
Ooh.
Who?
You like this one? Jared likes this one.
Yep. I like these opening, just baller guitar riffs that fire me up.
Yeah.
It's that snare.
It is.
I'm like, I could do that. I want to be a drummer. I probably wouldn't be able to do even that.
Drum harder.
Yeah, hit them harder. You like that story, didn't you?
I did. You missed my Jimmy Buffett story. I actually told you.
You did. It was the Bob Marley.
No.
Or no. Bono.
Yeah.
Flying over.
Pretty good story.
It's a cool story.
We got a little rock and roll ain't noise pollution from the AC/DC. This is actually one of my favorite AC/DC songs. It's that little groove, right?
Yeah.
You like it too.
I do because, yeah.
Yeah, it's this part right here. Listen. Right? Simple.
I just don't know how this guy had a voice.
Yeah.
It hurts my throat listening to
No,
him.
I know. It's you try and even mess with him. I don't know. We're back. Got our guests ready. Got cold beers, refills down here at Amsterdam Tavern, the Amsterdam Tavern.
Floating around like Richard Simmons.
Yep.
It's such a weird comparison that you made.
But
yeah,
does it
I
make
thought about it
sense?
after the fact.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
I just,
Richard, I wouldn't say, I don't know.
But you're extraordinary happy.
Well, I've had,
know what I mean?
look, truth be told, you guys all know, I've had a rough couple of weeks. And, things are, I tend to be glass half full.
Yep.
And today, I'm glass is 60% full. So I'm going to lean into that a little
good.
bit.
I love it.
You like that? Zach, you got the honors. You've roll them in today. Who we got? Who we got?
I get excited a lot, but very rarely do I get to talk to somebody who has had such a major impact on our lives and the lives of our kids. And this guy has probably more so than anybody else, just because of the duration that he had with my son in particular and Jared's and yours, JB. He is one of those guys that has kind of a storied career and has been around the block. And we are very excited to bring on the Tim Leonard, Timmy, Lenny, so many nicknames.
TL.
TL.
Skinner.
Hey, you.
Skinner. I mean, so the Tim Leonard, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Extremely happy to be here to see you guys again, to be on the show. Big fan, from afar. Been watching, been listening.
You're the one that walks up to the glass and pounds on it.
Yeah, of course. The guest list has been impressive. The interviews have been impressive. Keep killing it, guys. You guys are you're onto something here.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it, dude. You so when we kind of played ping pong a little bit, texts going back and forth, trying to make this thing happen, how happy were you that we chose this location?
Absolutely happy.
You're like,
No,
I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to go talk to these guys.
No, I did not want to do the soccer part. Glad we did it outside. It's my second home. I get enough of it, so being here, seeing everything that's around me, it just takes you back. It's an unbelievable place.
Yeah, it's a cool spot. And for you, who's been in the club for quite some time, but it's also, you spent some time with other clubs as well. And so to take us back, we typically with St. Louis Stars like yourself, we try to start at the beginning and kind of try to understand and paint the picture of your youth and high school and then into college and beyond. And so a lot of our listeners know who you are, but many will not. And so I would love for them to get to know you a little bit better and just kind of start from the
Was he one of those South City jerks that we were talking about?
Absolutely. So just to go back to a recent guest, Daryl Duran.
Yes.
Grew up in the same subdivision as Daryl Durant.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit.
He talked about the side yard. I remember him talking about the side yard. So I used to drive by there when I was really young. I don't want to say much older, but he's much older. And would see him and his brothers playing on that side yard and knew who he was. When I started to grow up in South County, knew who he was, knew the legend of him. Ended up going to Melville High School. During Melville, played for Busch Soccer Club growing up with, the guy up here, Carl Rose, with the banner above my head.
Were you 75?
I was on that 75 team, yeah. So I played for a different club after CYC for a few years. It changed names. We were Gundaker for a year. We were Pico Flake for a year. We were all over the place. Steve Ralston was on those teams.
Grants Farm.
So then I joined Carl's team at U16, basically. And what a team I walked into. Was fortunate to play with all those guys on that team. Went to a national final our first
what were
year.
some of the names on that team?
Ron Oster,
Yep.
Ryan Bresnahan, Brad Brown, Tom Larrigan. I mean, we had a really good group of guys,
Yeah,
and I was
absolutely.
probably the only public school guy in the group. I think there was maybe one other public school guy in our group. So that made things difficult in my high school seasons. We were always playing against teammates but I was just a guy, in high school, just trying to grind it, trying to impress college coaches, trying to get to the next level. Any way I could. I know Carl was going to help all of us get there. And then, SLU came knocking my senior year. Didn't really expect it. Was also looking at FIU in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
So those were my kind of last two choices of where I was going to go to school. Went down to FIU, stayed with Steve Ralston. Steve was actually a year older than I was. We were good friends. He played at Forest Park for Pat McBride.
Mm-hmm.
I was still a senior. We flew to Miami together. Same recruiting trip, same weekend. Legendary trip.
Same girls?
We'll just keep that quiet.
I meant cigars.
Yeah. And so, and then Joe came into the living room, and Joe Clark, who's another guest of yours, and once Joe came into the living room, my mom, it was
He's
hard
great.
for me to say no.
There are very few people that, just in life in general, Joe Clark is one of those, in so much that he's just so sincere, so nice, so class.
I didn't want to stop talking to him when we had him on, and I can imagine as a parent, about to go through the same process, having somebody like that come in and sit down and kind of talk you through the process and what they're going to do for you. And
Well, let me ask you a question about that that time and that feeling, because I love the family stories. You're growing up in South County. You're a grinder. You're jumping. You jump through those club teams that were changing names. You land on the Busch team with Carl. You guys have, incredible success. Clearly, you're on a path. You're playing public ball at Melville, and then in walks Joe Clark and sits down, and your mom's there. Talk about what that really meant to your household for that work, that process to click, and your mom's, baby boy is about to go to SLU University to play soccer and get an education.
It meant everything. You knew where Joe was at all times as a high school player. Was he watching CBC that day? Was he watching Vianney that day? Where was he? Because I was in communication with all those guys.
Yep.
And when he would be at a game of mine, it was just special. It was like, Joe's here. Joe's in the crowd, and you just knew you wanted to impress. But back to who Joe is and how he impressed my family, I was so fortunate to have him in my life for those years, guiding me through going from let's just call it a low-level high school team into, Brian McBride was there when I was a freshman, so we can get into that a little later. But, the team that I walked into was top 5 team in the country. I was 145 pounds soaking wet. I knew physically I was in for a battle my freshman year, and Joe didn't beat around the bush with me. He told me and my parents, it's going to be a struggle for you to play year one. totally accepted that, totally knew that, never thought I was going to go in there and start. But worked my way into the lineup, played some games. If some injuries happened.
Had some success,
Yeah, my freshman year, I ended up, I credit all my assist to Brian. I just float balls in the box, and
he would have.
he would just knock in headers. Yeah, what do you just knock a ball in the air from 40 yards, and this guy heads balls in?
Iron Man that plays here.
What's your nickname? Pitching wedge?
Yeah,
you just stand back.
Right. Be like, Joe, why are we playing so tiki-taka? Let's just knock it into his head.
Yeah.
But
how important was he for your injury?
Brian, are you talking about Joe or Brian?
Yeah, Joe. Both of them, I guess, for that matter.
Joe, my injury came...
Stay on the mic a little bit.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, my injury came Bob warming. So post-Joe.
Okay.
But go back to Brian. Walking into that team, you couldn't have asked for a better leader. Like, you couldn't have asked for a better guy to walk in and be the leader of the group. I can remember the one story that I like to tell about Brian is I had to get my physical at West Pine Gym during the summer, August or, late August, getting ready to start preseason. And I'm glancing and I'm walking into West Pine Gym and I'm looking in the gym and I see the girls playing volleyball. And I'm like, is there a guy in there? It looked like a boy was playing with them. And so I walk around to the next glass doors and I look and they're doing like hitting routines where they're just doing spiking practice. Well, Brian's in the line with the girls and he's spiking the volleyball. And he's spiking the volleyball and he's running with them and he's spiking it the other way. And he's running this drill where he's just getting his timing. And the guy he could jump out of the gym, but he was getting his timing for his heading.
Yep.
And he was working at his craft. And I said to myself, boy, I'm in for it. This is the leader of the team. This is an All-American. This is a guy who just came back from the Olympic team. And look what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
I better get my ass somewhere and work. So I go down, and I'm getting my physical. And who comes down to the training room? Who do you think? Brian goes over to the weight room. He's pumping it out in the weight room, and I'm thinking, holy cow, this is going to be a challenge.
Wow.
And we got to ride his coattails that year, and it was awesome.
And you were probably like, man, Miami right about now. Beach. Could be pumping at the beach.
That's right.
I want to get your take on going back a little bit and just kind of encapsulating, as a kid that grew up here, your neighbor is, one of the greatest players to, come out of St. Louis and Darryl. And, you get to play under Carl Rose, another one of those names. And, you're making your way, you're going, Joe Clark invites you, you're there, you're experiencing all this. As a kid, as a St. Louis kid, talk a little bit about, that pride and hindsight. When you look back at that time and you look at that generation and the people that were touching you from your career from a youth and club, etc., what does it really mean to you being in the position that you're in now, because you understand that importance? What's it look like looking backwards right now to you?
Very appreciative. When I reflect on getting to play and walking into my first ambush locker room, that was a whole experience in itself. Darryl Duran being one of your idols growing up, right. And walking into the locker room and seeing him standing there, and then seeing Mose over in the corner smoking a cigarette in his towel. So, there were so many things in that locker room going on. Reiniger was probably eating a cheeseburger.
Joey.
who would score 3 goals a game, and Mose was smoking a cigarette, signing autographs. And so I got to, that was my first go around at the indoor game, but just appreciative of Carl, of Darryl, of Don, of Petch, of all these guys that I got to touch, feel, be around when I was playing, and now you get to work with them hand in hand, side by side.
Think about
meetings.
it.
It's crazy.
Think about those guys, especially at the amateur side of it, when you were talking about Carl and whatnot, and what you do for a living now. Those guys were doing it just for the love of the game. They were in clubs. I think somebody used, maybe it was Carl or it was Patch at one point said, these guys are coaching. They're coaching for, maybe it was you, JB. They're coaching for a case of beer at Christmas or a gift card.
Yep.
And just the personalities and the pedigree, which we use often, of those names and those guys and I got to experience a little bit. We were very, very fortunate at that age to be able to be around those guys in our development years.
No question.
Well, I think it's one of those things that we were talking about in the open in regards to the St. Louis alum from the national team, and all these things that are like these individual stories or these little quips of references to. Well, those 5 were on this Olympic team, and these 2 played here, and all. Like when you start adding up all the pieces, because and we're going to get into this shortly, because you've traveled around working, at really, really high level clubs. And I'm not going to be flip about it, but when you think about Kansas City and these claims and these regional go to other markets where, to a degree, soccer's less than 20 years old in some of these markets. Not Kansas City, but looking at it from a national perspective, how would you describe this? Like if you, Tim Leonard, were to get another opportunity to take on a club elsewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, and you go somewhere to an Oklahoma City or an Omaha or whatever, how would you describe the culture here? And with everything that we've been referencing, if somebody says, well, what's the soccer community like in St. Louis, how would you define that?
First word that comes to mind is tight-knit and hardworking. I think, for myself and my experiences, first of all, working with all the guys I've worked with in town, it's just like a blue-collar mentality. It's I feel like all of our parents grew up as hardworking guys that were just trying to pay bills and do what's best for the kids.
Did Ebes feed you that?
I'll tell you what, Ebes. So then I got to experience Southern California for 5 years, and really coming off playing, I wasn't even coaching at the time. I was working. I had just got done playing. I was working about 18 months, and I just saw I didn't fit the office life. I knew I wanted to work outside. I knew I wanted to work with kids. I knew I wanted to coach.
Well, you could have went to Worldwide Tech with all the other soccer.
Very fair. And they're not doing too bad, so more power to you guys at
Worldwide. Your whole
Worldwide.
roster for all 4 years you were there, 70% of them worked there.
100%. And unbelievable guys, and I'm sure they have a blast over there. But, I had took a different route, and got to meet Don first time I can remember walking on the field with Don. Went out to Irvine. Was offered a job to work not in his academy yet because the USDA wasn't even around when I got to Southern California.
Right.
Okay.
So I had worked with a team that was just below their Premier League out there. So it was a gold level team, and they were U14 going to U15. And the guy who brought me out to Irvine goes out on the field to introduce me to Don. I took 2 steps over the white line, and Don told me to get off my field. Get off my field. He didn't know who I was. He just thought I was walking on. So I was going to introduce myself.
Did you say, I'm from Melville, motherfucker?
I said, come on, man. St. Louis guy just trying to shake your hand. Big fan, number 9. But no, he was an unbelievable leader for those 5 years, and I got to learn on my feet. Don really gave me a lot of freedom to work. He would come and he would check on me, see how things were going, anything I need. We'd go, to the bar afterwards, talk about our teams, our games, training, what I needed. He really was just such a good influence on me during that time because I was fresh to it. I needed someone that I felt comfortable with, and the St. Louis thing, it made us kind of vibe. So it was just great.
I have a follow-up on the Ebert. So I talked to a former teammate of yours recently who is a fan of the show, listens to the Ebert show, and he cornered me last night, actually, and said, I have a bone to pick. And he said, Don Ebert made a comment that, as we were talking about pay to play, he said, everywhere in the world is pay to play. And we kind of challenged him a little bit on that, but not significantly. We kind of let it go. And then
Yeah, because fundamentally it's true.
Then we had Jan from Holland on. And so I want to get your perspective, Tim, because you've been in this game a long time now. I'm not going to ask you a political question, but I would love for you to kind of set the table for it, which is, I think what Don was trying to say, and you know him better than we do, is somebody's paying for those coaches. Somebody's paying for those fields.
I think anytime Don talks, it's in black and white. And there's no beating around the bush with Don. And I was out there for the start of the DA. So I got to see LA Galaxy come in and take our players. I didn't see LAFC because that was later, but I got to see the Galaxy come in to that community and how they went about things. And it rubbed us the wrong way a little bit of sometimes the communication was wrong. But Don has found such a niche and has done such a good job with his recruitment of talent and development of talent that I don't think he's ever going to not be a powerhouse down there.
Well, we were talking about it pre-red light here. One of the major differences is purely mass, the population and the culture there. Soccer is predominantly, especially in the Hispanic communities up and down the coast. There are no other sports. Maybe baseball is a distant second, right, at the youth development level. Talk about what that was like going out there, working at the club, knowing that you have LA Galaxy in the backyard. How did you approach, or how were players approaching you guys? What was that relationship like compared to kind of the X's and O's here in St. Louis?
Just like I think Zach alluded to it, it's a pretty big state. Southern California is a pretty populated area. And to your point, it wasn't just the beach communities, where Irvine was that we got players from. It was inland, San Bernardino, all the way to Big Bear. So that amount of talent, look, the Galaxy are going to make mistakes, especially in year one of trying to recruit that and trying to wrap your eyes and your head around, okay, I've got to pick 20 kids here. There's 200 very talented kids here. It's difficult. So in year one, I think they made some mistakes, and we kept some players, and we were always competitive, within our SoCal division in the DA, top three. So what Don's doing out there is very impressive, and it's not surprising the way he's succeeded with the guy he is and the drive that he has, and you can hear it in his voice. You didn't get to interview him live, but man, he is just a competitor.
Well, he walked away from
I think
that.
he was pacing the whole time.
Yeah, he sounded like a caged tiger at times, especially when we brought up LA Galaxy or other things. And so I that leads me to a former player of yours who happens to be my son, who is interested in the topic of LA Galaxy and now St. Louis City. Again, you don't need to get political with this, but just talk about the impact that when those MLS clubs come into an area that's got an established club, an established history, how does that have an impact on you as a coach?
Is it deja vu? A little bit?
I wouldn't call it deja vu. No, I just never looked at it that way when I was out there. I just felt when I was out there was so much going on in my life. I was single, no kids, just met my wife. So we had just started living together. My focus wasn't truly on what players are they taking from us at that point in my life. Now moving back and being in St. Louis and going through what we're going through with City, I can say it's just part of my life now. It's just the reality of the market. It's just the reality of our club. And I'll tell you what, the relationship's fine. And we're passing players on. I just had a parent meeting with my 13s. And just to let them know, if your goal that you set for yourself before the season, and I'm sure all your son's goals were the same, is to get there, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help them get there.
Now, I'm going to set the table a little bit for what you just said, because I don't think our listeners understand.
I hope you're going where I think you're
that
going.
For the 2 years prior to them joining the City, you were their coach, which meant during the transition, during the tryouts, during the kick-arounds, or whatever the hell we're supposed to call them correctly, you were the coach. and not just for
we have a kick around on a Wednesday, and then we're going to go play Chicago Fire with Tim Leonard on a Saturday.
right. And for our age group, the 08s, I think 11 kids from the team that you had coached for 2 years gets called up to city. Now you have the 09 group that's got I don't know how many not more than 11, but a lot.
Mm-hmm. And the 10s will be the same.
Yeah. Does that give you
Probably more.
a little bit of what's the emotion that you have now knowing it's happening, right? This isn't like oh my God, I had no idea they were going to do this. What's that emotion like?
Pride versus empty nester,
Yeah. Oh, right. I don't think it's pride. I think it's more just me being happy for them. Happy for all 3 of your kids, happy for my 09s last year, happy for the 10s that are going to make it this upcoming year. I don't think for me, I look at it as, good job, Tim. I feel fortunate to work with the players that I get to work with.
Saying it out loud, you could say, and you would claim, and you would be accurate, that you have coached more City Academy players than any coach in the world. That is mathematically.
Where's the Guinness Book?
That is a true statement.
That is
you and the guy that won all the 400s in high school in 2012.
Oh yeah, he beat every woman in the world.
Every woman.
And he's getting his haircut at Great Clips in Webster.
It's been 25 years since I had a haircut. Thanks for bringing it up.
No, I think that's a question that I've been wanting to ask you, obviously, because it's kind of a weird situation, right? Where you've got the club who's losing these kids, but they're also the ones who prepped them and gave them not gave them skills, but taught them how to get to that next level. And I think that's just super impressive and something that, while you're not patting yourself on the back, you guys kind of should to a degree.
I just don't think you stop, Zach. You just keep plugging away, and you keep developing, and you keep caring, and you keep helping.
This kind of tees up one of our historical questions. We ask it often because you're in one of those positions to be sitting in the front row, and that is, you've had a pipeline of players, for a long time. We casually referenced Caden Glover earlier. We've talked about all these kids, by age group that have been passing through the city. Ken Godet was the first one that I asked this question, and you know where I'm going with this. When you look, when these kids come into the pipe, and having the experience that you have, talk a little bit about your version of it. When you look at them play, what are you looking for? And go ahead, Jared.
And also, as you are answering JB's question, because I'm interested in your age group specific, you have the 13s and 14s. Now, biology, puberty, all of this changes throughout the years, but you are strictly important or involved in the 13 and 14.
Transitional year.
It's like the transitional year, so you're seeing it. So as you're identifying it in your definition, talk about the transition years where you have a 13-year-old that first year that's hit puberty, or you have a 13-year-old that when you have him the following year, he has went through it or has substantially got bigger, stronger, faster, or maybe a 13 and 14-year-old that hasn't even hit it yet, but things are coming that when you don't have that boy, what happens when he does hit it? So try to frame, dip and dodge out of that,
and answer each question individually.
Well, please. No, just that definition.
I don't do well with three-part questions.
With the puberty.
Yeah. So the it thing. I mean, what I kind of pick up on is really intrinsic motivation and competitiveness. How motivated is that kid day in, day out to train? And how much does he hate to lose day in, day out? It's like Michael Jordan. I was a huge fan of Michael Jordan's, and I'm sure all you are.
It's your class of '93 kid.
Absolutely,
I get it.
So that intrinsic motivation and that competitiveness. What does it look like every single day? And that for me is a big it factor of how far that kid's going to go. I worked, and going off of Jared's second part of the question. His question reminds me of Steve Ralston. Steve Ralston did not even start on his high school team his senior year. He went to Oakville High School.
And Robin.
And was a spot starter and went and played for Pat McBride led the league, led the country in assists. Had played with the U23s, so Billy Baumhoff, Jamie Poznansky.
Yep.
Who
just came from like South Carolina via SLU High. Yeah. This guy's Oakville Junior College.
So you want to talk about physical maturity? Steve was 130 pounds his senior year. He worked in the weight room. He worked on the track. He got himself so fit that he led the junior college, and then he went to FIU and led the NCAA in assists, and went on to have an unbelievable playing career.
Number 1 or number 2 in the MLS.
Steve and I used to have sleepovers at Steve's house because we grew up playing like U10, U12 age groups together, and we would just we'd play in his backyard. He had 2 goals set up, and we'd watch Goal from the '86.
Oh yeah.
Over and over again on VHS. He was just a guy you knew was going to make it at some point, just his work ethic. And that's to your point, Jared. If they have that work ethic, if it's instilled in them and they really want to do well, they're going to do well.
So I'm going to ask you to take this step further and use this as a moment for the parents that are listening to really understand. I'm going to extrapolate or ask you to extrapolate off of that answer. And that is, when you start to fold in the technical skills, the drills, the extra touches, the juggling, quote, training.
The Gallagher Soccer School aspect of it.
Yeah, correct.
So important.
Let the parent know, like, why you guys focus on that so much, in so much that you just said that what you're looking for is competitiveness, you're looking for drive, but they have to be able to perform. So talk about that kind of triangle of competitive, physical training. How do you approach that at a very, let's just call it what it is. It's a sensitive age.
Very sensitive.
Because you're prepubescent and, kids in the middle of it.
Correct.
How do you manage that process amongst those 3 areas?
Yeah, very carefully. Not too quick to judge. Let kids develop. I know Birdie, for instance, your son, he struggled physically there for 6 months, where you were like, man, is it
6 years?
No, I wouldn't say that. Yeah. Are his knees hurting? Are his ankles hurting? Is it, they're all growing. So it's very, you have to approach it with a lot of patience, and you have to do what you feel is right within the game. And at the club, we feel like technically developing kids so they're not behind. But tying those two together, they have to, if they're going to play on our top teams at 14 and 15, they have to have a little bit of both. They have to have that competitiveness, and they also have to have a little bit of sense of the game, technical ability. So you've got to tie it all together at some point. But where I'm at 13, you get them off a U12 team, you have to go through the weeds a little bit of what you're working with. And then, then you help, you promote, you move kids up if you need to move them up, and just keep challenging them.
I'm going to ask a long setup question, which JB loves. Because
let me go move my car real quick.
There's one particular college coach.
Please make it one part.
Yeah, it will be one part. One particular college coach who's making headlines this week, and I'll name him in a second. And there's one quarterback who played in this state. So this is a American football style question. But Kurt Warner talked about how he never played at UNI, never started. And he finally asked somebody on his team to ask the coach, because he didn't have the balls to do it. And the coach said, he doesn't show up in training. He does not show up in training. He's the best player we have at that position. Doesn't show up in training. Deion Sanders is the coach I was talking about for college. He mentioned just recently how you show up in practice determines so much. And it's not about just showing up for practice. It's what is your goal? So let me ask you this question. This is the question. The setup is long. The question is, what is your goal for training? And we're talking about 4 to 5 days a week for 12, 13, 14-year-olds. So what is your goal, Tim, as a trainer, as a coach for those guys?
That's a good question. It's setting standards. For me is number one. And then you have to really instill responsibility in each kid.
Yeah.
Because like you just said, we're training 4 days a week. If there's no responsibility taken on their side of what this is going to look like and how we're going to work, you're never going to have a good team. So, first of all, I'm trying to set a standard of what level we're going to play at and how fast we want to play and how fast we want to work. And then you have to instill, a bit of responsibility on them. And then for me, it's just it's guiding and caring, for those kids.
Yeah.
And showing them that day in, day out, getting them to believe in it and, listen to your voice and let them know that, look, all I'm trying to do is help. All I'm trying to do is help you move to the next level, get you to the next level, do things that I've had a million guys and have been fortunate that we just talked about to have worked with. I just want to help them. So those three things for me are the biggest things. And from there, if you have good players, your training's going to be a high level and your team's going to play at a high level.
So this is a super simple, quick question. And I just want you to address it because it's one of those things on the sideline in the parent world that always comes up, especially when you talk about the Gallaghers or the Fuses of the world. And it involves player selection, identification, and politics. And real quick, I'm going to reference when I had the opportunity to talk with Coach Baker back in March. All those years of our wins, I brought up hey, everybody in town thought it was, the councilman's son would play and whatever. The politics were involved. And his answer was simply, if politics were involved, we would not have won all those state titles. So,
yeah,
right?
I love that.
So I'm going to put it onto you, and you kind of, I know the answer, but I want to hear from you. Talk about your process. Talk about that 12 to 13 transition, and then more importantly, once they're in the pool, the academy pool, talk about how you guys weight, measure, and kind of keep expectations high, and what that looks like.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it comes from what Zach just mentioned. It's the 4 days a week. It doesn't take long with the experience that I've had to really get to know them, and not just get to know them as players, but get to know them how they compete, what their weaknesses are, where are the areas that we need to really ride them or push them day to day. Just using Lorenzo as an example. You guys, grew up with him. You didn't have to worry about the ball with him. What you had to worry about is what kind of teammate and what kind of work rate he was going to bring. So you just have to look at those things in every player individually. You're coaching a team sport, but you're coaching a bunch of individuals. Yeah. So you have to communicate differently. Some guys can take it in front of a crowd. Some guys can't. Some guys want it behind closed doors. Some guys want it during a session. You have to feel your way through that so you get the most out of those guys.
Does it help that I don't know that you have not gotten a group entering that 13 age group that hasn't won a Super Copa? I mean, when's the last time a Gallagher,
hey, I
11,
told you,
12,
I'm fortunate to coach the groups I
hasn't won a
coach.
Super Copa? But I do want to say coaching style. Our world is changing, and there were coaches back in the day like Bob Knight and these the Hoosiers guy where they don't touch the ball and it's fitness and it's very authoritarian militant style coaching. At that 13, 14 age group, and all coaches and all kids are different. I really appreciated your style at the 13, 14. By no means are you a pushover, but you're not a yeller and screamer. You're not going to yell and scream during a game. You're not going to really yell and scream at a kid during practice unless it's probably a behavioral thing.
True story, because all our boys played together. Beckett came home one day, and I'm like, how'd practice go? And I was watching, he's like, it was really bad. I'm like, really? Why? He goes, it was really bad. I said, why? He goes, Coach Leonard didn't say a word.
So I guess my it's not necessarily a question, but talk about, because you've coached under Don Ebert, who will dig the hole for you. You've played for Joe Clark, you played for Bob Warming, a little bit different. I'm sure you within the Hershey days, or you've played for a whole bunch of different guys, and you've probably ran the gamut of personalities. Where do you get your coaching style from, and what is your philosophy for the 12 to 15 age group? I mean, more or less, because U.S. soccer has changed our game a little bit where, hey, we don't need to coach, hey, parents, shut the fuck up. We're not coaching during the games. Let's let them learn. Talk about your coaching style.
I think it's twofold. I think, first off, the things I've learned from all the great coaches that I've been able to have is be yourself, first off. I think how smart your kids are these days, they're going to see right through you if you're not yourself. So it's be yourself, first off. And second off, it's, when I was coming into the DA, when Claudio Reyna took it over as technical director, and he was starting to lay out the guidelines of what the league was going to look like and what U.S. Soccer wanted.
Was his wife his partner?
This DA to look like.
Yeah. Did the emails come from her?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they were doing at that point.
Okay, go ahead.
But just believed in everything Claudio said. He was a guy, another guy that I really looked up to as a player, and had traveled to, he had just come from Man City, and he was laying out, how they wanted us to approach the DA as coaches. And it was almost treat these kids as professionals. And look, we know they're not at those ages, but it gave me kind of this, okay, let's treat them as they're professionals, and getting to work with your kids after working with St. Louis FC for the amount of time I did, and Dale and that experience, I think that was the right way to go, is just treat them like pros, but give them guidance at the right times and give them leadership at the right times. But don't overstep your bounds. Let them work out problems. Let them solve problems and become their own players and people. So
Go ahead.
I guess that's a long answer to a short question.
No, it's all good.
Here's answer.
Here's what we're going to do, because we have we're going to talk a lot more, but we have liquid priorities. Yes. Empty glasses. So Senior Wilhelm behind the bar is going to give us some refills. Drinking this Urban Chestnut Wally's Light Lager.
Delicious.
What do you think? You
Big
like
fan.
it?
Big fan.
Big fan.
It's delicious.
First time, long time now.
Well, I mean, you could pick those right up,
Yes.
right outside your parking lot down there,
Yeah,
man.
Absolutely.
I love it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Tim Leonard. Shift it up a little bit. You guys good?
I'm good.
All right. We'll be right back. Crescent Plumbing Supply helps save marriages. Really, as families grow, kitchen and bath needs change rapidly. Designing and choosing the right fixtures takes way more skill than just scrolling Pinterest. Staying on budget and avoiding those foreign language order sheets, that's not easy. Lucky for you, the local team at Crescent Plumbing Supply, they are experts. They can help you ditch the baby's tub for a teenage shower and upsize that kitchen sink for all those tumblers, rosé glasses, and sports water bottles. So, when you're ready for that kitchen or bath makeover, go to crescentsupply.com. That's crescentsupply.com.
What the fuck is this world? Run into you didn't leave a message, at least I could have learned your voice one last time.
There you go.
I saw this dude at the Fox, and it was great.
I was there.
It was awesome.
Are you talking 93, 94?
Yeah, like mid-90s,
Yeah.
I saw him at the Fox.
I was there.
And it was like a political thing that he was doing, and I didn't listen to any of the politics. I didn't care about it then. And the show was phenomenal at the Fox. Eddie Vedder at the Fox, Pearl Jam.
I didn't go to
was
that
phenomenal.
because
You did,
I
too.
was, Tim, you and I are the same age,
Yep.
right? We graduated in 93.
Yep.
Yeah, you probably had the tight little CD wrap of 10 when it came out, right? Did you go to Pearl Jam, or not Pearl Jam, Lollapalooza 2?
I did.
Riverport?
Yes.
Right.
And I rode in the back of a pickup truck.
Didn't we all? Actually,
Didn't we all?
I mean, a Melville kid and a Grand City kid rolling to Riverport and pickup trucks, that's pretty
That's
synonymous
right.
there, man.
And I think I went with Derek Burton. Do you know Derek Burton?
Oh, yeah.
SLU.
Friend of the show.
Dude, well,
Great guy.
so-
Jeff Burton
that's why we
got
were
us
talking
the behind the scenes.
So we got to tell a little bit of story about why we played the song, because, and I'm going to tell the Derek Burton story first.
Yes. Oh. Wow.
'cause-
So many connections on that.
Dude, it's St. Louis, man.
dang.
It's a small world.
Runs deep.
So when Derek came on, obviously his brother Jeff, we all grew up listening, on the point, and he, unfortunately passed away from cancer and fought for a while. And rolling into the second half of the show, just like this, I took a shot because I wanted to, the second half of the show, we wanted to talk a little bit about, hey, let's Jeff and your experiences, and he was cool with it. I asked him beforehand, so I started playing Pearl Jam Black.
Yep.
And he sat there and was like super kind of chill about it, and he then said, hey, that's my favorite song. It basically reminds me of my brother. Brother took me to these shows, and we were sitting.
And by the way, that was after I made a stupid ass joke about how if you just clench your teeth and sing, you can sound like Eddie Vedder. And then he's like, "This song reminds me of my brother who just passed away."
Yeah.
God.
Well done. You're known for that. You can't read the room.
So kind of let's throw a little honor, because I asked you about music coming up, and you were like, hey, would you mind playing this song? Let's talk about Derek a little bit, because Derek McCosh is a friend of the Gallagher family, but a really deep friend of yours. Talk a little bit about him, why, and Living Legacy, and
Yeah. Hard to talk about, but we wanted to honor his life, and we did a celebration in the ballroom. Shamatero was a part of it, a big part of it. And difficult times. It was a class reunion. We got to see people from high school, but wanted to play, Pearl Jam Porch for Derek. Was just the best friend of mine for 20 years, and parents love him. My wife loves him. It's just difficult to deal with, but just a little respect to him and put it out there.
He was a great dude. I told you that.
Guy.
When we opened Gaslight, he would come down and hang, and him and Tony and everybody, and he was at the club for a while too.
Absolutely, yeah. He helped Nick Caruso back, before Nick Bonacker came on. Caruso was running the PTC. Derek had a strength and conditioning background. He was great with kids. Really wanted to work in the club, and he did for a number of years, and then met Amy, and then I think got into dental sales after that. But hearing that song, it reminds me of sitting in the car, playing air guitar with him. Just miss him. Miss him.
Pre-cell phones. I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
got in
awesome.
a lot of trouble.
Thanks for the words, man.
Yeah,
That's freaking awesome.
He's a legend.
It brings up kind of a transitional question, which is, JB, you've expressed some sincere thoughts about your brother, and now Tim, you for Derek, and we had Derek Burton on, whose brother Jeff passed away, which we just referenced. But there is a side of this coaching stuff in this game where emotions are pretty big, and you are taking on kids who are coming into 13, 14, and things are changing for them, and it's difficult. And as a parent, I struggle a lot with it. Riz, mid, bruh. Which I saw a video today. It was like,
You
bruh,
need fucking medicine.
Yeah.
I have medicine.
No, not the kind shaped as a little bear and chewy.
I need therapy is what you're saying. No, I would love for your perspective, Tim, on the emotional side of the game and connecting with players, connecting with coaches on the emotional level. And if you can talk to that, because that was one of the most... We'll talk about the last game you had with our team at some point, but I would love to get your thoughts based on this conversation. Just how do you deal with the emotions of a 13, 14-year-old boy who didn't get to start, who got pulled off, who didn't even make the roster, those kinds of things.
Or who scored a fucking hat trick in whatever game.
Yeah, just
the whole
highs,
game.
lows, all that. I'm just curious how you manage that, because you were so, in my opinion, just the most calm,
graceful
coach
Yeah.
I've ever seen, and to deal with those shitheads is what you got.
Well, and then I also think
the
empathy
question
is...
is, hold on, let him answer the question.
Yeah,
you guys are
go.
going on this like
No.
Odyssey trip.
No, it's fine. I think you just use all your experiences. I think you look back and you just reflect on who did you like to play for, who are your favorite guys that you really put that extra effort in for, and you reflect on that and you look at how am I going to get that from him? How am I going to get that from him? And like I alluded to earlier, it's different for every kid of what he's going to buy into and how you pull that out. But I think my focus is individually motivating every single one of them.
Yep.
From 1 to 18. And I told my 13s yesterday, because I was really frustrated with how slow the ball was moving in training, and you're only as good as your weakest link. And I think their eyes came up to me. They were tired. They were breathing. And I said, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I think they looked up and said, what is he talking about?
Well, they immediately were like, is he talking about me?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Each one of them.
So that's another way to just grab their attention. But you've got to manage them individually, and you've got to work with them and what they do well, what they don't do well, and push it day in, day out. And hope by the end of the process, you've done something, and that's all I can hope.
Well,
I love that.
Let me ask you a soccer question, a coaching question. In the current world of academy and all the elevated expectations and parents probably chewing on words like development and pathway and all this stuff way too much, right? Talk a little bit about just the simplistic balance between technical training and competing to win. How do you as a coach, how do you balance that at these critical ages with these kids who are at the quote top level?
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand what I'm getting into, and being at the club since 2008 really helps to know the landscape of what I'm getting. I know what they've gone through. I have a kid that went through the program. I know on the weekends the ball is their friend. And
by the way, shout out to your kid.
Shout out to Kirkwood C team for another victory today, 4-0 on the season.
Let's go.
But having him at home, seeing the work he puts in with the ball, I know what I'm getting, and for me, the focus is more on the non-negotiables, the attitudes. How driven are you? How much do you want to improve and learn? Those intangibles for me are so important with the age groups that I'm working with, because they should have a good base under them. All I'm trying to do is pull out the competitor and pull out the animal in them almost, so that they know how much it means. And I think that was a big part of us growing up, is we knew what it meant. We knew, like alluding to when Joe's at a game, we just always had that competitive drive in us. Growing up, and it's something I want to try to keep instilling in our guys, because it's what made St. Louis successful.
Yeah, and FYI for those listeners that are like, wow, it just got really loud in there. We just got inundated at Amsterdam with a bunch of zillennials with mustaches.
Yeah, no, the short jean shorts and curly Q mustaches, and now they're all outside.
My
Shh,
God.
listen, they're all gone.
Ugh.
It's all good.
I was just in the shitter. They have the best sticker I've ever seen in there.
Oh, yeah?
It says L, and then it's 600 O's, and then it's W with the little thing, EN. It says Leuven.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
I need to get that sticker.
Yeah, you do.
That great segue.
Oh, yeah.
Let's ask you about that. You spent your life here. You're a 314. Daryl Duran was your neighbor.
I have to cut in. You go to the College Cup in your senior year, Final Four, leading the team, captain of the team. What happens if that freaking team is here after December 15th of that year?
Great question.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
So unfortunate that it didn't happen that way. But
Yeah.
man, what a team and what a good time in my playing career. It was unbelievable. But yeah, I got to see Brian McBride kind of go through the process of not having MLS when he got out of school and heading over to Germany and then he would come back over and help out Joe with our preseason and train with us. So I got a pretty, firsthand look at what it was like for a guy during that time to go through what he was going through. And, he would say, Tim, I was in 5v2 and I'm taking food off these guys' plates, basically. I'm taking this guy's job. They're 2-footing me in 5v2. They're trying to hurt me. I felt like they were trying to hurt me. And then they recognized I could help the team. And things changed, quickly. He came back to Columbus, but man, Brian, what a legend and what an influence on me as such a young guy.
Well, let me take that back into where I was going with this, and that is, growing up here, knowing all the names, playing with the names, kind of maximizing opportunities and knowing everybody else that did as well. And then, there are names like Brian and Ralston, et cetera, that kept on going, et cetera. Now you fast forward to 2023, and the long wait is over from a professional league standpoint. City SC's here. We're sitting here. What is today's date? September 6th, 7th, whatever.
9-6.
Yeah, year one, we're still in first place. Talk about the team and out of the gate, and did you think it was going to play out this way? And where does your kind of historical emotion tie into what's going on down at City Park?
Absolutely. I don't think anyone probably thought it was going to play out the way it's playing out. No. I could be wrong, but even guys down there. But just looking at the culture that Bradley set for his team, it's a hard-working group. It's it almost looks like a no-attitude type of team that everyone's willing to work for everyone, and it's 1 to 23. They've been moving guys around, playing different guys, lineups for whatever reason, whether that be injury or just giving younger guys a chance. But
quote,
they're doing
unquote,
it
managing bodies.
They're doing it.
My least favorite fucking term in the head in soccer
Sounds
ever.
gross. Managing bodies.
But man, they have pulled out some results and put themselves in a great spot.
So I the other day I was talking with somebody and a friend of mine that's down in Atlanta who's a soccer guy too, same age as us, and he was like, "Holy shit, this team, it looks like it's for real, blah blah blah." He's like, "Man, a bunch of St. Louis guys," and because he's not doing the homework, he's not a MLS fan, and I'm like, no, this is kind of like an MLS team, more European than most of them. He's like, well, does it bother you that it's, not really St. Louis guys? And I thought about that, and I've got mixed feelings about it, and I get it. It's a big, big business. If you can go find a guy like Klaus and Leuven, et cetera, you're going to bring them in.
Sure.
But for you personally, knowing what the academy looks like, knowing the names of 80% of those kids, and then seeing individuals like Caden and Tyson who just, signed a homegrown contract, how much pride and hope do you have in this thing? Kind of, look, we're not going to have 8-9 St. Louis guys starting at any one point. It's going to be mixed, but 2, 3, 4 is feasible. Mm-hmm. What's your gut tell you moving forward about the pipeline and what the pipeline is really going to mean to this team moving forward?
It's motivating. It's motivating for me because I know, Jared keeps alluding to the Super Copa titles and these players I get to work with. I get it. I get it, and I know
it's
the
called
talent.
T-ball.
Yeah, yeah, and I understand. That there are going to be more within, the 09s, the 10s. These guys are going to keep coming up, your guys included, your boys included. There's going to be opportunities for them. For me, what does it do for me as a St. Louisan? It makes me proud. Yeah. It makes me really root for those guys. And deep down want them to get first-team chances. I don't think Josh Sargent was available for City to bring him back, right? So they had to build. They had to build a squad they think they had to build. But from Tyson and Caden and who's ever next, it's just for me. It's proud to, and it's just, I'm so happy that I even got to work with those guys. You know, I just feel fortunate to instill a little bit in them for them to move on and succeed.
That's a great point, because we talked about this kind of off on the break. You know, when a coach says, I developed that player, you get to have an impact on these kids. Can you talk a little bit about that part of it? Meaning, what's the process look like, and help our parents understand and our listeners understand that it's not one coach, it's not one program, it's not one experience. Just kind of be a little open and walk through what that looks like.
Yeah, we were talking about it off air. I just think that too many youth coaches these days get caught up in, you know, me. I developed. Look,
or they played at my high school.
Correct. Whatever the case, whether you touched a kid for 2 months or 2 years or 4 years, I just feel like there's such a process. I mean, myself, my own story. I mean, I played club soccer. I played basketball in high school. Mm-hmm. I played golf in high school. All those coaches had an influence on me.
You were on those Joe Clark golf trips.
100% on those Joe Clark walking 9-hole golf trips. And back to Joe, I mean, what a leader to let us work his camps under his name.
Yeah.
You know, that was the biggest thing for me that I was impressed with Joe, is not only as a coach, but just as a person, to put trust in me to work his camps at Chaminade all summer long, at SLU overnight camps all summer long, every summer, you know, to make my spending money. I mean, the guy was just, he was just such a different level leader. And I just try to put little things of what I've learned from those type of guys into my team.
I love that.
Yeah, I want to kind of shuffle it up a little bit, because I'll kick myself in the ass if I'm listening to this later on and we don't talk about this.
Well, you will be. Will it be your second or third time through?
Maybe my third time. But what we got to talk about is, it's an interesting part of your career. You leave SLU, and you were kind of a journeyman. And namely, I want to talk about those days in Hershey. The Hershey Entertainment Group around that park and that conglomerate of what is, you know, a blue blood of our American business culture. Playing for that team, you know, it's a short-lived franchise. They played at a stadium on the grounds, and I think you guys made the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
So can you talk about a little bit at your time playing for the Hershey Wildcats and what that meant to you? And at that time, that was in the A-League, was what they called it. So that was our second league at the time. And just spit game a little bit about the Hershey Wildcats.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, because I played for Bob Lilly, who is still coaching Pittsburgh Riverhounds in the USL. So great coach, great guy. Had an unbelievable team. We were in a division with the Rochester Rhinos at that time. And during the season I got to Hershey, Rochester was coming off a U.S. Open win. They were a team that owned their own stadium, that had big budget, big team, a lot of good players. So we were in their division, and we actually lost to them in the playoffs my first year in Hershey.
Wow.
But I'll tell you what, living on Chocolate Avenue, having guys that went to Georgetown and Pitt, and in the team that I was playing on, and being able to go back to their schools, and I was only 22, 23 at the time, and to go onto their campus and have a good time with them, and just soak it in, and really just
you were living on a
appreciate.
resort.
It was unbelievable. I was hitting wedges because I'm a golfer, but I had my wedge out, and the chocolate factory was right behind my apartment, and I used to hit wedges off of the chocolate factory, and they would come back into my yard. We had a huge backyard, so I'll tell
when
you what,
one of those sneaks through, you're the lawsuit.
I'll tell you, man. I hope no one gets chocolate in their kisses. I mean, a golf ball in their kisses.
You're right.
That's hilarious.
I'll tell you what, it was awesome.
Hey, let me shift back up a little bit to family, and specifically your kids, your son, you were checking the updates. He's over there. Kirkwood had a game tonight. Zach brought it up a little bit earlier. Where I want to go with this is, again, a little bit more parental advice and just getting your take on, because you live, breathe, die, eat, sleep, drink soccer 7 days a week, right?
Yep.
For the most part.
Yeah.
But you have a son that is, you were talking about where he's thriving, what was a struggle, and, where he's at now. And, there's a lot of parents out there that have a balance, an imbalance of undue expectations and then those reality checks. How do you do that for you and your son in particular, knowing that your job, you're training the best all the time? So how do you balance that, and what does that car ride home sound like?
It's more on his, it's in his cards. So like, how much does he want to talk on that particular day? How much does he want to share with me on that particular day? I'm not a guy who's gonna pull things out of him. I want him to talk to me. Of course, there's times where it's gonna have to come down to a conversation of decision making, or what team he wants to play with, or where we're going to go with this thing. But parenting him, it's been very easy because he's such a good guy. I think he got it from the mom, but he
didn't get it from Melville.
He definitely not. We could talk days about that, but he's got a good head on his shoulders. He understands where he is. I worked in the 09 age group. He's an 09.
Yeah.
Just recently pushed those guys on to City, a lot of them, and he's in there. He knows them. He's played against them. He grew up playing against them, so he gets it. And that's all I can ask. I hope he gets it. I hope he understands where he is in the process, and all I can do is be a fan more than anything, and really help him love the game.
Well said.
But you talked specifically also about him thriving in this environment.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of parents in the debates that we have on the show,
Sure.
High school versus academy versus club.
Yep.
And there's so many parents that are trying to find that wedge to shove their kid up into an environment that may or may not be the right environment for
Right.
them. Talk about, if you don't mind, his own experience and what you're seeing through enjoying it, and how important it is for a parent to notice that.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch him get to play for his school, and he's playing with the C team, but there's a sense of confidence, there's a sense of pride in what he's doing, and all I can do as a parent is enjoy that, relish in it, and keep promoting it, and hopefully by the end of this journey that he's on, he can win a state championship for his high school.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, that's the goal. But if it comes to his junior year where he's developed and he's starting to play well and he wants to look at the academy, it's 100% right for those type of players that are driven towards that goal of semi-professional, professional, Division I, Division II. If he gets to that point, I'm not going to stop him from pursuing the academy route either.
So I'm going to ask you a very pointed question. Did U.S. Soccer Federation screw up when they gave over USDA ownership to the MLS?
Man, that's a question
It's a
for way
loaded
above
question.
my pay grade.
Part
But I'm
2
serious.
Yeah,
in the
I'm
next
not-
hour on
No, I'm
Soccer
just
Day
curious
Pod.
what you're
I don't know if it
because
was a
you've seen a
choice.
lot of change in both.
A choice. It absolutely wasn't a choice.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was a choice, but look, for me, the league is the top league in the country.
Yep.
Your kids have been part of it for quite a long time now. I'm sure you've grown to appreciate it. I've spent 15 some odd years appreciating it and really pushing players that I feel like are in the right environment and feel like are in the right competition. So they've done a great job. U.S. Soccer did a great job starting it. Now, MLS took on a big job.
Yeah.
And it's going to take them time to clean things up, but at the same time, I'm never going to argue that it's not the right league for the top players in our country.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason why I say it wasn't a choice is because it was a federal lawsuit with the United States Youth Soccer Association against U.S. Soccer, which made them split the umbrella, if you will. So
it was a non-monopoly.
I
get it.
There was litigation involved where the U.S. Soccer could not control.
But I guess my question is, and Tim, I'm not expecting you to answer this necessarily. It's just,
will we win the next World Cup?
No.
And that's it for this episode.
According to Lucky at McGurk's, no.
Say I'm not going to Vegas right now.
No, I think that's kind of it. It's just, how can we right this ship if there's anti monopoly situations going on with the U.S. Soccer Federation.
When we're competing against countries that literally embrace the monopoly status of their soccer federations.
Difficult.
Yeah.
It's a difficult. It's a long conversation and a difficult one. I've been fortunate to see Germany and see Holland and seeing their youth development and just see how on board with everything they are as countries. And the logistics of our country has always been a challenge.
It's a big challenge.
Too big.
Jamie talks about it a lot.
Yeah, it's something I learned in Southern California is if I was the U17 national team, how am I picking a team?
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous, the job that you're expected to do.
Can I tell you where you're not looking? Kansas City.
There it is.
Fair enough.
We finally got to it. Hey, Tim, I know that's our cue closing. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being a part of my son's life.
Yeah, ditto.
His time with you was very influential, and I'm a fan of you, the club, and I can't wait to see the kids that you continue to pump out because first class, man, and your career. Let's go, Tim Leonard. Tim Leonard for president.
I want to say something real quick.
Well, I'm going to follow it up, and then you can close this out. Beckett said the same thing the other day. I'm like, hey, 2 years in, year and a half into this thing over at the city. How's it going? You happy? Because that's really all I care about. Like, look, the kid's going to be a hammer or he's not. It's up to him. He's like, yeah, it's great. I'm like, well, anything you miss about the other environment? He's like, man, I miss Coach Leonard. he was like sincere, and then he ate his avocado toast. So
see, that's the stuff I love to hear. I mean, you're gonna make me emotional, but you guys were all a pleasure to work with. I love what you're doing here, and your sons have been a great pleasure to work with.
Well, I want to close it with this, and I referenced it earlier, which is the last game we had with you out in Dallas. It was miserably hot. Because of injuries, we had one player as a sub, and these boys battled, and they battled for you, and they already had their spots picked out. They knew where they were going, and they were fighting for their coach, and they didn't know you played with Steve Ralston. They didn't know you played with Brian McBride. They don't know about Joe Clark. They don't know about any of that. They knew who you were, and I think that's such a testament to your role and the role of the coach.
Fuck yeah.
And I'm just so proud that my son got to play with you for as long as he did. My son would say the same thing that Beckett and Birdie would say, which is, we miss Lenny. And it's you should be proud.
I miss them. So you can relay that message. But it was an absolute pleasure, and I'm glad to hear that because I never wanted to tell them where I played or what I did. I just wanted them to work for me.
Yeah.
Well, they did.
They did.
Well done, kid.
Well done.
Thank you.
Hey,
thanks
man.
for having me, guys.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for coming
Coach.
on. Gentlemen, thank you for not fucking it up too bad. Really appreciate it, Jared.
You're welcome again.
Keep doing what you're doing, guys. You're killing it.
Give us a follow, give us a share, because as our numbers go up, I troll Kansas City podcasts. So give us a little help there. I would appreciate it.
I'm not paying for this bar tab, by the way, either.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Wally's is. All right, guys, we're out. We'll catch you next time. Lust for life. Live it. Adios.